All right, I was just talking about the scenes, from St. Mary's would be totally delightful for the Chelsea fans, but for the Saints, it's really be exciting. Now, I couldn't help but notice all of the smiles with all of the goals coming in.
For a while, I thought Timo Werner was a Wallfable of the year. If you watch this highlight, you think Timo Werner is
on that performance, then he could win the best player of the season of the year.
No, you might have thought the current best player of the
That's
year
Timo
who was Timo Werner.
Yeah, but dominant display by Chelsea and
Yeah.
just the kind of message, just the right message you need to send out to Spain, to Real Madrid, ahead of their visit to the Estadio Santiago Bernabeu later tomorrow.
There's no message, Brad James. This is not a message.
6-0 hammer.
Doesn't matter. Good win, know that. Good win, know that. I think the other question would have been maybe Timo Werner was a missing piece, but we know he wasn't. We know he wasn't. But good win for Chelsea. Not to take anything away from that performance. It's really difficult moving to Southampton. Southampton's such a resolute side, such a defensive side on that day, and they can cause shockers. But you look at the numbers, 6 win. But from a Chelsea point of view too, it's good for the momentum of the side. It's good for their mentality. At least after the loss to Real Madrid, we're able to beat the Premier League side with 6 whooping goals. So that could set the pace for them. But it's totally going to be a different ball game in Madrid.
Right now, considered 7 in 2 games, but finally, can keep a clean sheet here. Must also be one of the positives from the game.
I agree. Made a great save for me. Very, very good save from the Chelsea goalkeeper. But come on, there's no point judging this game comparatively to the game they're about to meet. But on a level of the team, in terms of confidence, building that confidence and improving, it was a good result for them. They can start thinking that the Chelsea we used to know is back with a better mentality.
All right, now let's leave here, talk about the biggest game, for the weekend. Beyond just England, in the whole of Europe, Manchester City, defending Champions League leaders, took in second place Liverpool, which is in the chasm, which is single point between both sides. And arguably, you could say that 2 of the finest clubs in the whole of Europe and world football, so to speak, at club level. Now, did the game live up to the billing for you? The most exciting, would you categorize it, the most exciting, or where would it rank for you in terms of Man City, Liverpool clashes, in time past?
Well, I wouldn't be able to set that, but from a Premiership point of view, it's been the best game I've watched in the English Premier League this season.
Wow.
That game was the best game I've watched in the English Premier League this season. It reminded me of the days of the El Clasico, when El Clasico was El Clasico, because in this particular game, you needed the skills, you saw it. You needed the passes, you saw it. You needed the fullbacks dominating, you saw it. You needed the tackles, you saw it. Come on, my joy, Fabinho. Fabinho was just excellent for me. And you needed the theatrics from the coaches, you saw it. And what caught me the most was Guardiola's reaction on the bench when the goals came in, so excited. When he conceded a goal, he seemed devastated. But the biggest highlight for me was the end of the match when he gave Jurgen Klopp that handshake and said, the handshake showed respect, man. I have not been able to beat you this season. You've not been able to beat me in the biggest game of this magnitude. But for me, Guardiola was the man of the match.
How so?
Football is all about the entertainment and the excitement. He gave me the best moments. So he was my man of the match, enjoying this game. It was totally complete football for me.
Right, now, before this particular game, the whole talk about the game was this is a title decider.
Yeah.
Now, they've shared the sports again for a second game this season. How does that impact the title race then?
Well, it shows on it's going to be all about who gets to win the last 7 games. I don't know how they'll be able to do that considering
Look
the
at
tight
this
schedule.
chance. Look at this from Maris, just at a death.
I could see a breath of relief from Van Dijk and the rest. Said, oh me, even the fans, they knew it was this goal. If Marit had converted this goal, for me, it would have been done and dusted for the title.
Wow.
But the game was totally exciting. You need goals. I love the response from the Liverpool side. And an assist from Salah, assist from Arnold, great goals from Mane. It was all about being clinical, and the sides were clinical for me.
Let's talk about Kevin De Bruyne. Time and time again, we saw him picking out the right passes just at the right place. But proficiency in the final third seems to be City's biggest problem of the evening.
Well, I think you have to give credit to Liverpool one way or the other. It's not an easy game.
Yeah.
Man City for a while had not really seen them look this sharp, but they were so sharp. And talk about Kevin De Bruyne, that first goal. It was in a position that's so difficult to give a strike on the ball. And he moved one step, the second step, and then did strike the ball. A deflection, and it was inside the net. Such moment, such quality of a player, such standard you can ask of. And this is, I don't know how to describe it.
And the
this
clash again this weekend, the semi-finals of the FA Cup.
Tight, difficult. I was listening to Van Dijk in the post-match interview talk about it, and he said they have to keep their cool. Who knows how it's going to turn out, but it's going to be such a cracker. It's going to be a difficult game. But I think somewhere along the line, one of the teams must find a way to sacrifice winning some of the trophies in order to win the major ones. I don't know if Man City will do that or Liverpool will do that, but it's going to be a long walk, considering the fact that it still have the Champions League on the bet to get to win, and it's going to be such difficult for both teams. But in the long run, one team will drop a point.
All right, now let's leave the Man City and Liverpool game. Was exciting, lived up to its billing, and the fans thoroughly enjoyed that. But let's talk about the disappointments from the weekend. Lunchtime kickoff, Manchester United first. How do you lose against Everton and Frank Lampard? I can't remember the last time they picked up any sort of points against anyone in the Premier League. But that's where Manchester United lost. And then Arsenal at the Emirates against Brighton, who haven't won a game, in the last 7 in the Premier League. They won at the Emirates that day. Now handing the advantage to Spurs, who thoroughly said thank you, with Son Heung-min grabbing a hat-trick at Villa Park and Dejan Kulusevski scoring the other. So Antonio Conte's side strengthened their tough and, of course, their grip on that fourth spot.
I start with Spurs, exceptional side. What Conte is doing, it's exceptional for me. We've seen many managers come to Spurs and they struggle, but Antonio Conte came around, did the best he can. At some point, it was difficult, but they're beginning to find that mojo. They're beginning to find the energy, that cohesion, and they're not just scoring goals, they're scoring it in numbers.
Look at this opener from Leandro Trossard.
So basically, they're getting in numbers. You also look at Arsenal. For me, the biggest disappointment of Arsenal had been what I've always talked about. They start the season very well, get to they start the season poorly rather, get to the middle of the season. You see the energy coming, they begin to build up momentum. Then end of the season, they begin to plummet, not playing well. But I think the biggest problem of Arsenal had been the injury of Tierney and Partey.
Yeah.
Thus, to injury becomes a problem. Look at it in this match. Xhaka was drafted to the left fullback to cover for Tierney, and the middle was open. And your fine midfielder, what's his name again?
Sambi Lokonga.
Okay, Lokonga was drafting, but guess what? Was disappointing. I think they're going to suffer a lot for the injury of Partey. They're going to suffer a lot about that. But it's what it is, and most likely we're going to see the Arsenal we used to know.
What's that Arsenal?
The Arsenal we used to know that's not consistent. That's the Arsenal I'm talking about. We've seen great forms with Xhaka and Partey.
But what a goal from Martin Odegaard.
Wow, great goal, good player. But come on, right, James. Odegaard, drafted into the midfield, can solve their problems moving forward. They lost this game for me. This is a game they could have won if Partey was around. I can guarantee you Arsenal would have won this game if Partey was around, and even for other more games. But it's been sad, it's been difficult, especially when you have such a big figure. I'm excited he's a Ghanaian, he's an African, and playing quite well at this level, but it's what it is. But look at Manchester United, disappointment. But it's always good to know that one problem with Everton has been the fact that Everton has been a difficult team to play Manchester United. When Manchester United plays Everton, it's always very difficult. One way or the other. Not surprising to see Everton get a win ahead of Manchester United, considering their recent form and performances.
All right, joy for Spurs, joy for Chelsea. Well, a share of the joy for Man City and Liverpool, an absolute gloom for Manchester United and Arsenal. Well, it's the latest installment of the Premier League match, day 32. And of course, looking forward to 6 more fixtures. They will kiss this season goodbye. So for Arsenal and Manchester United, is it done and dusted for them? Talk about the positives for a top 4 finish. Well,
if we see the Tottenham that we're never sure of, who gets excited, and when you have your hope on Tottenham, and you break your heart, they begin to be disappointing. If that Tottenham shows up, which I do not think they're going to show up, we even talked about the disappointment. West Ham also lost. So it goes to show the top 4 position. Tottenham are smiling now because the competitors at that position are losing games when they're winning games with fine margin. For me, it's going to be difficult, but Tottenham seem like the more serious team for that berth.
You know, how is it and why is it convenient that every single time Manchester United lose or draw a game, the next name you'd hear very conveniently would be Harry Maguire?
He's the captain. He's not the captain. And he's a defender. He's supposed to close those loops. Especially when it's either he's scoring an own goal or the striker dribble past him, get to score the goal, or he went and made a mistake and they scored the goal, or the deflection still came off him for it to be a goal. The name Harry Maguire will come up.
So why don't we ever hear, you know, names at the other end of the pitch, the men, you know, the Supremos who inadvertently should be getting the goals, the Cristianos, the Bruno Fernandes, the Marcus Rashford, the Jadon Sanchos, the Elangas. We don't get to hear those names. You know, so if you're conceding goals at the back, you can't score goals, it prohibits you. There's a ban on you from scoring goals because you're conceding.
Sometimes it's very difficult to score goals when you're leaking behind because you don't have confidence going forward. You're trying to check your back.
So we're talking about lack of confidence for players who play at the bigger stage and have come back from upset or the brink of, you know, snap defeat, you know, victory from the jaws of defeat and all of that. The stories suddenly at Manchester United, they've forgotten how to win games or recover.
Right, James, this is it. Football is a team sport.
Yeah.
And you have to bring the defensive department, the middle department, and the attacking department
So
together.
how come that, you know, it's a team sport and then the team gets to lose, it all goes to Maguire?
Because he's the betrayer. Always licking goals. When you're doing that, remember the game against which team was that? I think Watford. No, it wasn't Watford. The game Ronaldo scored 3 goals. Forgotten the team that played, scored the hat-trick. You saw Maguire was at the end of it. The scoring goals and he's conceding goals for them. Definitely, there's always going to be a spotlight on him because he seemed to make it difficult for the rest of the side. But he ought to improve. He ought to stabilize the side, especially when you are the captain.
So why is he that terrible? Why is he playing games for Manchester United?
Well, probably they don't have the numbers of the quality to play, or probably the coach is also sentimental. It's part of what happens in football, especially in England. There's usually some set. Let me not say it's totally the way it is, but there's usually some sort of privilege for the homegrown players. It happens everywhere. Leicester City, name it, all of it. Because you want your homegrown players to perform well. If it were in Nigeria, it would happen too. It would have been even worse in Nigeria if Nigeria had such a superior league. Come on, it's what it is in football.
Now let's leave there and head to Spain where Real Madrid won, Sevilla won, Barca dropped it late, won yesterday, but Atletico just had their way of disappointing the fans. Now, you know, we'll be talking about Barca. Was a strange game. They had 3 penalties. You know, they considered 3 penalties. I mean, you know, Levante had 3 penalties, scored 2, missed 1.
Yeah.
But Barca still found a way to win.
Exciting, and I like the likes of Pedrick, what they're doing for the side. Saw the goal he scored, and I'm like, wow, seemed like a rebirth of Leo Messi. But he's been at the nick of it. You have to also give credit to the likes of Aubameyang. They seem to be getting the goals, but the super sub, the young that comes in and gets the goal, exciting for me from a backup point of view. But there's one issue I have with the Barcelona side. They ought to be very careful, because when you're always conceding goals and doing the comeback, in the long run you're going to lose. It's exciting to be making comebacks, but sometimes you just have to dominate proceedings and get to win. And for a while I've not really seen Barca do that. They seem to be making the comebacks and feel like kings of comebacks. In the long run, it would fail them, and they might just reset back to starting to lose games.
Now, it's good to see Aubameyang hasn't forgotten how to score goals. His 8th goal in La Liga. La Liga.
Quality striker, any day, any time. Quality striker.
And when you consider the fact that he just arrived in January, he's already scored 8 goals.
That's a goal, Pedro.
Yeah.
Soft touch, clinical, make it so difficult for the goalkeeper to make a save. And everyone was, come on, it doesn't get beautiful than that.
It gets more beautiful when Langlais finds a way to do what he just did.
And disappointing defensively for Barcelona. They're committing penalties here and there, and you're wondering what's happening with the side. And It's what we talked about Manchester City. I mean, Manchester United. Look, the attackers are doing their bit to score the goals. Defenders are committing silly penalty. It could be frustrating and mentally draining in the match.
Yeah, but they're finding a way to win, unlike Manchester United.
Well, if it continues
the
like
strikers, the strikers are just, whoa, we keep conceding goals. I'm not scoring.
If it continues like this, they'll get to that point like Manchester United when the strikers can score a goal. And they'll be thinking about the back. How do we protect the back? It's football, it's what it is. But exciting from Javi's point of view, exciting from Barcelona's point of view. They're getting the win, the big man to Aubameyang, getting the goals. Because whether you win or not, as a striker, you need those goals to make up the number, build the confidence and the trust of your teammates to be giving you the ball to score. But exciting stuff, but Barca ought to be careful. If not, they'll reset to a Barca that used to struggle to win games.
Right, when we're back tomorrow, we'll be talking about Aqua United, the latest installment in the NPFL, the in action later this evening against Shooting Stars. Coach Deji Ayeni has picked up 2 points in his last 2 games against Rivers United in Uyo, and of course in Katina against Rivers, against Canopilas, I beg your pardon. Well, we should be looking forward to Coach Deji Ayeni's first win in charge of Aqua United later this evening.
Hopefully, I'm hopeful too that happens, because it's going to change the dynamics of the team, because they have to go back to winning ways. And when you win at home, it builds the pace. Well, we're beginning to sense the fact that the Aqua United we used to know seem to be back, but it would depend on what they play today. But most importantly, I'll look at the games over the weekend that happened in Serie A. Roma getting that stunning win, comeback and moments. Serie A was exciting for me. Napoli lost.
Fiorentina.
Napoli lost to Fiorentina. Victor Osimhen got a goal, 3-2. They lost, but exciting Serie A for me comparatively to Premier League.
Right. AC Milan drew again for the second game running. So it's just single points ahead of city rivals Inter, who had a smashing win over the weekend, and of course third place Napoli, both on 66 points.
It's what it is.
It's that close, yeah? All right, thank you very much, Blyton, for joining the conversation this morning. We'll return later tomorrow, and of course we'll have more time to talk about more stories in finer details. Thank you very much for joining the conversation today, where it continues on social media, SpectrumTv NG, on Facebook and Instagram, and of course on Twitter. On the website, it's www.spectrumtv.ng. You can also catch us on YouTube, SpectrumTV. Search us out, check us out there, and of course hit the subscribe button so you get to enjoy a lot more exciting content. I am Bright James, and Blind was here. You have everyone who's made this one a huge success. We say thank you very much. We're looking forward to more great days. Have fun.